Welcome back to the Pray, Plan, Do framework. We have been on a journey together, seeking God's face for the new year, inviting Him to be the cornerstone of our life to help us make progress and move forward into the areas that He's called us to. Then we went ahead and we reflected on where we were because we know that it's crucial to understand where we are so that we can move forward and make progress with God's help. And so today, this is where we start putting the pen to the paper. This is where we really start creating a loose and flexible plan to live out what God has called us to. Now, I just said two words that are really important here. Simple and flexible. Because as we create this plan, and we're not talking about grand goals, we're not talking about any of that, we're talking about creating a simple and flexible plan for where we want to end up at the end of the year. Now, how many times have you set lofty goals and they just have fallen by the wayside come February or life happens and you get off course? I completely have been there more often times than I can count. And that's the power of the Pray, Plan, Do framework. We are walking through these steps, and these steps can happen and take place at any moment or in any season of our life. In fact, if you're watching this and this is June and you haven't thought at all about goals, please rest assured that you are okay. This framework works whenever you need it to. So if we write this down, regardless of the date on the calendar, and then a month later, things fall apart and you need to come back to this because life has shifted and changed, that is completely okay. This is where, as believers, we stand on God's grace, that we have sought His face, that we have reflected on where we are. We've even created a plan. But if all else fails, we know that God is still good. God is still on His throne, and that God walks with us and carries us through. All right, so what we're going to be doing today is I've gifted you two printables below. And these are things that you can either print out or download, just as long as you have them to reference, that's completely fine. And we're going to start with this Playing Your Year and Playing Your Year. And so what we're going to do is we'll start probably with this page together in just a moment and work through the steps here. These are, again, part of the framework for the Abundant Life Planner. I'm going to go ahead and put the link below, but I've gifted you two of the printables. This one are steps to move forward. So we've prayed about it, we've reflected on where we are now, and now we're ready to put together a simple and flexible plan for the new year. And we're going to do this as kind of a general broad plan for the year. Inside the Abundant Life Planner, oh, and don't forget, if you have your planner, you'll need that too. Inside the Abundant Life Planner, there is this Pray, Plan, Do framework for every single aspect of your life, from finances to health, to hospitality, to Bible study, pretty much any aspect that you can think of your life. This has the Pray, Plan, Do framework in there so you can walk through it. So what we're going to walk through is a general overview of your year. But if you want to get specific, there's more details inside here. Definitely not necessary to continue with what we're doing today, but I just wanted to let you know. So I'm going to go ahead and get my desk set up. You're going to need your planner. You're going to need your printables. You're going to need a pen or pencil and some color codings if you're into that. And let's go ahead and create that plan together. All right, I am so excited about these two pages. I actually get thrilled every single year to be able to pull these out and to work through these so that I'm able to kind of get an overview of what this life holds and what this year holds in the next 365 days. In case you have not already, go ahead and download or print off your 2 planning pages. They are linked in the description for you, and they are part of the Pray, Plan, Do framework from the Abundant Life Planner. I'm also going to go ahead and link that below in case that this is something that you're interested in taking a look at for yourself. All right, so this is our plan section of the Pray, Plan, Do framework. So what we've already done is we've already spent some time in prayer and worked through the Acts prayer model in using those prompts to be able to pray through what we're surrendering, what are we confessing to the Lord, and identifying areas in which we want wisdom and all the goodness that God can give us in the year ahead. Next, we spent some time reflecting on the current state of our life, kind of a wrap up for the year before, how things ended, kind of like a current state of our life. And we talked about how crucial it was to know where we're starting from so that we can make plans to move forward. It's hard to move forward if you don't know where you are or where you've been. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to link in the description those 2 videos. So if you have not checked those out, that you might want to do that before you dive into this. Okay, so technically what I like to do when I have these planning pages out is I like to have all of what we just did. I like to have my prayers out. I like to have my reflection out. But for the sake of desk space, I just have these 2 pages. All right, so I like to look at and ask God, what are my biggest priorities? Now, sometimes I know my priorities off the top of my head. Like I know I have my family, I have my job, I have a business, and I just list out all of my priorities. So that's what I encourage you to do. List your priorities. Then I want you to rank your priorities. And this is hard because when we rank our priorities, if we're honest, sometimes we have our priorities out of place. There is a section in the Abundant Life Planner in which I encourage you to think through and pray through your priorities, because often we come into this new year, and we have our priorities shifted. Maybe we have work first and our family's kind of down here. Maybe God is not anywhere the priority that he should be. And so we need to adjust. So rank your priorities, then have the courage, note when you need a shift. This is simply noting when you need to shift your priorities, that maybe you recognize that my things aren't the way that they should be. My life is not in an order that I'm proud of or that I know that God has called me to. So make note to yourself that you want to work on adjusting your priorities. Then I want you to take your prayer list and I want you to make note of where is God leading you this year. What is he calling you to make a priority? What is he calling you to make a priority? What is he calling you to let go of? Now, this one is hard, especially when it's something that we want and long for. Sometimes letting go feels painful. But that we can trust God to, when he asks us to release something to him, we can trust that he is going to lead us and guide us according to his best for our life. And so we have to trust. So just spend some time looking at your prayer list and comparing it to what God is leading you to. And if you're not sure, that is okay. I encourage you to make that then a top prayer priority for you. Spend time in the Word and in fellowship with our Heavenly Father and ask Him to show you where you're supposed to go. He is faithful to guide His children and walk with us. And so we can trust that He will reveal the plans He has for us. Now, you may not do a word of the year, and that is okay. I love to choose a word of the year, but I know that not everyone does, and that's okay. So I encourage you to then to reflect on a few words that at the end of this year, what would be your theme? That what would, at the end of the year, do you want to be known for? Do you want to have stepped into at the end of this year? And that kind of goes hand in hand with our next one. At the end of the year, I want to say, what do you want to say? Do you want to say that you have surrendered all to the Lord and that you have trusted Him? You want to say that you've maybe followed God's plan where you didn't see the way? Again, just make note of at the end of the year, what would you like to have been true of this year? Now, what I love to do here is kind of think pie in the sky. That if I had things to go according to plan, this is what I would write. We all know that in January and December, often our lives can look way different than what we hope. But if we put down here what we want to say, even if it's just godly character traits, that we're not planning out specifics of our life, but we're looking at what do I want to be true of me at the end of the year. I know for me personally, at the end of the year, I want to say that I have followed God wholeheartedly and that I've surrendered to Him and I have lived my life with open hands, trusting Him as the author and perfecter of my faith to lead and guide me. So if you need to, go ahead and pause right here. Spend time working through these sections. I left a blank section here for you to be able to just take notes, because if you're like me, oftentimes these questions will spark a thought of movement, something exciting, or even something that I'm grieving and letting go of that I need room to write. So that's what you have here. When you're ready and have had a chance to work through our first Plan Your Year page, this is kind of where we start making a plan. And so I write really big, I'm sure you've noticed that, and pretty messy too. If you need more room other than this, that's okay. This is where we're going to start planning our steps to move forward. These are kind of like our reflection questions. When we ask ourselves these really good, powerful questions, they allow us to be able to see change that needs to happen and to be able to move forward. So that's exactly what this series of question is. I encourage you to also grab your planner and your calendar so that you're able to pencil in some big things. All right, question number 1 says, what large life events are happening this year? Add them to your calendar now. This is the time when I like to grab my calendar. I like to write in birthdays, anniversaries. When does school start? When does school stop? When are breaks? When are vacations? All of those big things. Because when we have them done, starting at the beginning of the year, and they're all written in for the entire year, it's freeing to have a place to be able to reference. And if you're like me and your brain gets overloaded with things, this allows you to give yourself permission to not have that take up residence in your brain because you freed yourself by writing it on your calendar. All right, the next question, what major projects do you hope to happen and when do you see them happening? Write them on your calendar. Now, these projects can be for a variety of areas. To remind you that this is more of a general overview, our entire life, almost at a bird's eye view. And The Pray, Plan, Do framework of the Abundant Life Planner does go deeper and breaks down to every last aspect of your life so that you can walk through this formula for health and wellness, for finances, for home, for family life, for spiritual growth, and you can work through that. So this is more of a general kind of bird's eye view. So major projects doesn't have to be anything super major, but if you know that you have some big things coming up, maybe you're having some home renovations, maybe you're having your child tested for some disabilities, that hits close to home for me. Whatever you have major kind of coming up, maybe you have some medical procedures, go ahead and write those in. All right. This next question says, at the end of the year, what major tasks do you hope to have accomplished? No more than 4. While we're not getting into the nitty-gritty of goal setting here, I think it's important to say that by the end of the year, I hope to. I know for me personally, last year, my goal was to publish my first journal. And so I recently released the Rooted in the Gospel Bible Study Journal. I'll go ahead and I'll link that below. And that was just a year-long journey and project getting into the publishing world. So that was definitely one of my major tasks. So go ahead and write down yours. And I say no more than 4. No one's coming to check at your paper. But honestly, I have found that the more major projects or major tasks that we have going on, the more overwhelmed that we feel. So I try to limit to just a couple of major ones per year. All right. Then I break it down further. When do I want those tasks accomplished? And I write those dates on my calendar. Even if I have to go in and change it, I know that they're there as a mental deadline for myself. And sometimes having a deadline is a blessing because it encourages me to keep moving forward. If I had just said, I want this year, I want to release a Bible study journal, and there was no date set on it, how do you think that would have gone? If it just would have been out there sometime this year. Now, did my original date get moved back? Absolutely. In fact, it got moved, I think, 2 times. But nobody knows that, and that's okay. So sometimes setting these expectations can be such a blessing because they help hold us accountable and help keep us moving forward in the right direction. All right, for the next one, what are the relationships you want to invest in? Now, if you're like me, obviously you think about your family and your very close friends. But what I love to do is to think about relationships that I want to foster, that maybe these are friends that I don't really know very well, but I want to really start investing in so I can build a friendship. Maybe it's someone that I'm investing in that does not know the Lord, but I want to spend time ministering to this person or to this group of people so I can help them and introduce them to Jesus in a way that an authentic relationship can only do. For our next one, it says, how will you live for the Lord? Which ministries will you be a part of? So when it comes to living for Jesus, I think it's easy to have a cookie cutter answer. Well, I'm going to go to church. Maybe I'll join a community group and a small group Bible study. But I want you to really, really think about this question and don't brush it off. What specifics are you going to do to live for the Lord in your life? Are you going to commit to memorize scripture? Are you going to go again and build relationships for the sake of the kingdom so that you can invest in a friendship or a person that you want to lead to the Lord? What ministries are you going to be a part of? Is God calling you to start your own ministry? Is God asking you to step away from a current ministry? When we start really thinking and incorporating Scripture and the Bible into our lives, it becomes more than just words on a page. We were not meant to be just knowers of the word. We were meant to be doers of the word. So really spend some time thinking through and praying through how you're going to live for the Lord in the year ahead. Same thing with this next question. How are you going to live with intention? Now, living with intentional living has kind of become a buzz phrase over the past several years. But when we really think about it, living with intention means choosing how we're going to live. Because the truth is, we get a choice. We choose how we spend our time. We choose who we spend our time with. And we choose often by these little tiny moments, because these little tiny moments of our life add up to greater moments, add up to hours and days. Days become weeks and months become years. And so if we just kind of live idly by the seat of our pants, or not really having a plan for doing something that really matters, or spending time on what really matters, then are we really choosing how we spend our life? There have been seasons of my life where I felt like I was skating by, but in choosing what matters most to me, then I was able to start being more aware of the fact that I was not at all living with intention, that I was just kind of skating through life. So when I started really praying through and having eyes wide open that how I spend those little minutes of my day, those little minutes of my day matter, that helped me live with intention. So I started using my time a little more wisely. That at the time while I was waiting for the kids' therapy, I could put that to use for something. Those little moments when I'm in the carpool line, I don't have to just waste that time. Those times where I am waiting in line, again, I don't have to waste those seemingly wasteless moments. I could have been putting it to good use. I could have been praying for someone. I could have been working on a project, or in a way that I could have been allowing myself to get my job done faster. So I work a lot online. And so when I started using the Notes app in my phone, that really allowed me freedom to kind of be free from just paper, to be able to use those moments to make grocery lists, be able to use those moments to, make to-do lists of what I had to do. And then this way, the time that I was back and working, I kind of came with a plan. So choosing to just live in those little tiny moments and be present can add up to big life change. Our next question is, what do you want your life to look like at the end of the year? This kind of piggybacks on our question from the previous page, at the end of the year that I want to say. And this could be a variety of ways. This could be what I want my life to look like with financially, that I've maybe financially prepared and saved. That maybe at the end of the year, if my theme of the year is to go out and get healthy, then maybe I've lost weight or developed better eating habits or a workout routine. So I think it's important as this year begins, that what do we want to do and say and be about at the end of this year? And then our last question is, in one year, what are the milestones you will use to determine if you've had a successful year? Now, according to the world tells us that our milestones and our markers for success are what's in the bank or what we accomplish. But we know that as believers, that God tells us, kind of gives us the glimpse of what really matters in life. So we can't measure just by what the world measures by. So I want you to kind of be creative with this one. I want you to think through, what does success mean for you in a year? And what would that look like? Because oftentimes, as we do this overview of our life for a year, life changes a lot. Great things happen, big milestones happen. And then at the same time, tragedy, sorrow, suffering happens in ways that we could not expect. But by creating this overview and a framework, we have given ourselves a glimpse as to what we want our future life to look like. And then what we need to do at the end of this is we need to surrender it to the Lord and trust that He knows best. He provides for us in ways that we can never imagine. And He is our hope for the future, regardless of whether or not these plans come to fruition. I want to encourage you to remember where your identity comes from this year. That no matter if all of these plans fail, that you can still say that God loves you, that you are His child, and you have been redeemed with His grace and His sacrifice for us at the cross. And that is what success looks like. Success looks like keeping a Christ-centered vision, keeping our eyes focused on Him when life is falling apart around us, and trusting that God will lead us and God will guide us no matter what. I am praying for you in this next year ahead. I am just praying that God will open your eyes to His goodness and that He will show you His ways. He will lead you in ways that you have not experienced Him in this year. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned to Proverbs 31 Mentor. In our final step, our do portion of the Pray, Plan, Do framework, we're going to be talking about simple ways to stay on track when life gets messy and in the way. I'll see you soon.